CLEP History Progressive Era. Question 1. Which answer best matches this? CLEP History Progressive Era clue events are understood through the conditions and ideas of their time. Option A, German unification. Option B, Homestead Act. Option C, historical context. Option D, GI Bill. The correct answer is option C, historical context. This points to historical context because context helps explain why people acted as they did. German unification points instead to Bismarck used diplomacy and war to unify Germany under Prussia. Homestead Act points instead to settlers received Western land after meeting residency and improvement requirements, and GI Bill points instead to veterans received education and housing benefits after World War II. Question 2. How would a CLEP history question most likely test this clue? New foods, animals, diseases and peoples moved between the Eastern and Western hemispheres. Option A, Compromise of 1877. Option B, Columbian Exchange. Option C, House of Burgesses. Option D, Stonewall Uprising. The correct answer is option B, Columbian Exchange. This points to Columbian Exchange because it describes the widespread biological and cultural exchange after 1492. Compromise of 1877 points instead to the disputed 1876 election ended with federal troops leaving the South. House of Burgesses points instead to a Virginia assembly gave colonists an early model of representative government, and Stonewall Uprising points instead to resistance to a police raid helped energize the LGBTQ rights movement. Question 3. Why does this clue matter for CLEP History Progressive Era? The United States funded European recovery after World War II. Option A, European Coal and Steel Community. Option B, Marshall Plan. Option C, Progressive Era. Option D, Lenin. The correct answer is option B, Marshall Plan. This points to Marshall Plan because the plan aimed to rebuild economies and resist communism. European Coal and Steel Community points instead to Western European states' pooled coal and steel production after World War II. Progressive Era points instead to reformers' targeted corruption, monopolies, unsafe workplaces, and social injustice, and Lenin points instead to the Bolshevik leader promoted vanguard revolution and withdrew Russia from World War I. Question 4. When reviewing CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? A political scandal led to President Nixon's resignation? Option A, Dawes Act. Option B, Watergate. Option C, Industrial Revolution. Option D, Rousseau. The correct answer is option B, Watergate. This points to Watergate because the scandal raised concerns about executive power and accountability. Dawes Act points instead to tribal lands were divided into individual allotments to assimilate Native Americans. Industrial Revolution points instead to mechanized production transformed work, cities, and economies, and Rousseau points instead to a thinker emphasized the general will and popular sovereignty. Question 5. Where does this clue point in CLEP history content? The Soviet satellite launch intensified Cold War competition in science and education? Option A, House of Burgesses. Option B, Sputnik. Option C, Point of View. Option D, Voting Rights Act of 1965. The correct answer is option B, Sputnik. This points to Sputnik because the event raised U.S. fears of falling behind technologically. House of Burgesses points instead to a Virginia assembly gave colonists an early model of representative government. Point of View points instead to a source reflects the author's position, interests, and audience, and Voting Rights Act of 1965 points instead to federal law attacked barriers such as literacy tests and voting. Question 6. Identify the answer connected to this CLEP History Progressive Era clue. Evidence may be shaped by an author's motives or assumptions. Option A, 13th Amendment. Option B, Great Awakening. Option C, Homeric epics. Option D, source bias. The correct answer is option D, source bias. This points to source bias because recognizing bias improves historical interpretation. 13th Amendment points instead to slavery was abolished throughout the United States. Great Awakening points instead to religious revivals stressed personal conversion and challenged established authority, and Homeric epics points instead to Greek poems such as the Iliad and Odyssey preserved heroic ideals. Question 7. Choose the term that completes this history clue. Cherokee removal led to deadly forced migration westward. Option A, Compromise of 1877. Option B, Crusades. Option C, Machiavelli. Option D, Trail of Tears. The correct answer is option D, Trail of Tears. This points to Trail of Tears because the event shows the human cost of Indian removal policy. Compromise of 1877 points instead to the disputed 1876 election ended with federal troops leaving the South. Crusades points instead to European Christians launched military campaigns toward the eastern Mediterranean, and Machiavelli points instead to a Renaissance writer analyzed political power in the prince. Question 8. Select the best match for this CLEP-style clue. Evolution by natural selection challenged older views of life and nature. Option A, Bolsheviks. Option B, Darwinism. Option C, Hamilton's financial plan. Option D, Kansas-Nebraska Act. The correct answer is option B, Darwinism. This points to Darwinism because Darwin's ideas influenced science and social debates. Bolsheviks points instead to radical Marxists seized power in Russia in 1917. Hamilton's financial plan points instead to the federal government assumed debts and supported a national bank, and Kansas-Nebraska Act points instead to popular sovereignty reopened the slavery question in Western territories. Question 9. Determine which answer explains this CLEP History Progressive Era clue. Revivalism inspired reform movements such as abolition and temperance. Option A, Second Great Awakening. Option B, Black Death. Option C, Lenin. Option D, Treaty of Versailles. The correct answer is option A, Second Great Awakening. This points to Second Great Awakening because the movement connected religious energy with social reform. Black Death points instead to plague killed millions and disrupted Europe's economy and society. Lenin points instead to the Bolshevik leader promoted vanguard revolution and withdrew Russia from World War I, and Treaty of Versailles points instead to the peace settlement punished Germany and created the League of Nations. Question 10. Recognize the event or idea behind this clue. Conflict with Britain strengthened American nationalism despite mixed military results. Option A, Greek Polis. Option B, Treaty of Versailles. Option C, War of 1812. Option D, Agricultural Revolution. The correct answer is option C, War of 1812. This points to War of 1812 because the war reinforced national pride and highlighted trade and maritime issues. Greek Polis points instead to city-states such as Athens and Sparta shaped Greek political life. Treaty of Versailles points instead to Germany faced blame, reparations and territorial losses after World War I, and Agricultural Revolution points instead to improved farming, increased food production before industrialization. Question 11. Pinpoint the best answer for this history clue. A canal connected the Great Lakes to the Hudson River and lowered transportation costs. Option A, Gettysburg. Option B, Great Awakening. Option C, European Coal and Steel Community. Option D, Erie Canal. The correct answer is option D, Erie Canal. This points to Erie Canal because it helped link Western farms to Eastern markets. Gettysburg points instead to a Union victory marked a major turning point in the Civil War. Great Awakening points instead to religious revival stressed personal conversion and challenged established authority, and European Coal and Steel Community points instead to Western European states' pooled coal and steel production after World War II. Question 12. Spot the answer that matches this exam clue. Women's rights activists issued a declaration demanding equality. Option A, Julius Caesar. Option B, Seneca Falls Convention. Option C, Great Compromise. Option D, Black Death. The correct answer is option B, Seneca Falls Convention. This points to Seneca Falls Convention because the 1848 meeting helped launch organized women's rights activism. Julius Caesar points instead to a Roman general's dictatorship helped end the Republic. Great Compromise points instead to the Constitution created a bicameral Congress balancing large and small states, and Black Death points instead to plague killed millions and disrupted Europe's economy and society. Question 13. Compare the options and choose the one tied to this clue. Allied forces landed in Normandy to begin liberating Western Europe. Option A, D-Day. Option B, Homestead Act. Option C, Martin Luther. Option D, Peace of Westphalia. The correct answer is option A, D-Day. This points to D-Day because the invasion opened a major Western front against Nazi Germany. Homestead Act points instead to settlers received Western land after meeting residency and improvement requirements. Martin Luther points instead to a monk-challenged indulgences and helped launch the Protestant Reformation, and Peace of Westphalia points instead to treaties helped establish state sovereignty after the 30 Years' War. Question 14. Connect this CLEP History Progressive Era clue to the right answer. Southern states left the Union after Lincoln's election. Option A, Stalin. Option B, Progressive Era. Option C, Secession. Option D, Transcontinental Railroad. The correct answer is option C, Secession. This points to secession because secession led directly to the Civil War. Stalin points instead to Soviet rule featured collectivization, 5-year plans, and political terror. Progressive Era points instead to reformers targeted corruption, monopolies, unsafe workplaces, and social injustice, and Transcontinental Railroad points instead to rail lines connected the country and accelerated Western settlement and commerce. Question 15. Trace this clue to the correct historical topic. The Supreme Court declared segregated public schools unconstitutional. Option A, Brown v. Board of Education. Option B, Whiskey Rebellion. Option C, Plato. Option D, Monroe Doctrine. The correct answer is option A, Brown v. Board of Education. This points to Brown v. Board of Education because the decision challenged the legal foundation of Jim Crow segregation. Whiskey Rebellion points instead to Washington used federal power to enforce an excise tax. Plato points instead to a philosopher wrote dialogues and imagined rule by philosopher minus kings. And Monroe Doctrine points instead to the United States warned European powers against new colonization in the Americas. Question 16. Explain which answer fits this CLEP history clue. Many Americans believed the nation was destined to expand westward. Option A, 13th Amendment. Option B, Renaissance humanism. Option C, Erie Canal. Option D, Manifest Destiny. The correct answer is option D, Manifest Destiny. This points to manifest destiny because the idea justified expansion while increasing conflict over land and slavery. 13th Amendment points instead to slavery was abolished throughout the United States. Renaissance humanism points instead to scholars emphasized classical learning and human achievement. And Erie Canal points instead to a canal connected the Great Lakes to the Hudson River and lowered transportation costs. Question 17. Interpret this clue and choose the best answer. Plague killed millions and disrupted Europe's economy and society. Option A, Black Death. Option B, American System. Option C, Seneca Falls Convention. Option D, Agricultural Revolution. The correct answer is option A, Black Death. This points to Black Death because the pandemic weakened labor systems and changed social relations. American System points instead to Clay promoted tariffs, a national bank, and internal improvements. Seneca Falls Convention points instead to women's rights activists issued a declaration demanding equality, and Agricultural Revolution points instead to improved farming increased food production before industrialization. Question 18. Analyze this history clue and find the match. Tax cuts, deregulation, and supply-side ideas shaped 1980s economic policy. Option A, nationalism. Option B, re-economics. Option C, conservatism. Option D, World War I. The correct answer is option B, re-economics. This points to re-economics because the approach emphasized markets and reduced government intervention. Nationalism points instead to people emphasized shared language, culture, and political identity. Conservatism points instead to post-Napoleonic politics defended tradition, monarchy, and social order. And World War I points instead to U.S. entry helped the Allies and increased federal power at home. Question 19. Recall the answer linked to this clue. Western European states pooled coal and steel production after World War II. Option A, Magna Carta. Option B, European Coal and Steel Community. Option C, Constantine. Option D, Sputnik. The correct answer is option B, European Coal and Steel Community. This points to European coal and steel community because the organization helped begin European integration. Magna Carta points instead to English nobles' forced limits on royal power in 1215. Constantine points instead to a Roman emperor legalized Christianity and founded Constantinople. And Sputnik points instead to the Soviet satellite launch intensified Cold War competition in science and education. Question 20. Name the event, idea, or policy described here. Essays defended ratification of the Constitution and explained federal power. Option A. Federalist Papers. Option B. Harlem Renaissance. Option C. Christianity. Option D. Peace of Augsburg. The correct answer is option A. Federalist Papers. This points to Federalist Papers because they argued that the new constitution would control factions and protect Republican government. Harlem Renaissance points instead to African American writers, artists, and musicians flourished in the 1920s. Christianity points instead to a religion grew within the Roman world and later became dominant in Europe. And Peace of Augsburg points instead to German rulers could choose Lutheranism or Catholicism for their territories. Question 21. Match this CLEP History Progressive Era clue with the correct answer. Franklin Roosevelt's programs expanded federal relief, recovery, and reform. Option A. Scopes Trial. Option B. New Deal. Option C. Montesquieu. Option D. Christianity. The correct answer is option B. New Deal. This points to New Deal because the New Deal redefined the role of the federal government in the economy. Scopes Trial points instead to a trial over teaching evolution highlighted conflict between modernism and fundamentalism. Montesquieu points instead to a philosopher advocated separation of powers, and Christianity points instead to a religion grew within the Roman world and later became dominant in Europe. Question 22. Distinguish in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue. Congress created a central banking system to stabilize money and credit. Option A. Federal Reserve Act. Option B. Russian Revolution. Option C. Rousseau. Option D. Jamestown. The correct answer is option A. Federal Reserve Act. This points to Federal Reserve Act because the act reshaped U.S. banking and monetary policy. Russian Revolution points instead to revolution ended Tsarist rule and brought Bolsheviks to power. Rousseau points instead to a thinker emphasized the general will and popular sovereignty, and Jamestown points instead to England's first permanent settlement survived through tobacco and difficult early conditions. Question 23. Locate the correct choice for this CLEP clue. Macedonian conquest spread Greek culture across the eastern Mediterranean and Near East. Option A. Alexander the Great. Option B. Holocaust. Option C. Henry VIII. Option D. Townsend Acts. The correct answer is option A. Alexander the Great. This points to Alexander the Great because his empire helped create the Hellenistic world. Holocaust points instead to Nazi Germany murdered 6 million Jews and millions of other victims. Henry VIII points instead to the English king broke with Rome and created the Church of England, and Townsend Acts points instead to Parliament taxed imports such as glass, paper, and tea. Question 24. Review this clue and select the best answer. A Roman emperor legalized Christianity and founded Constantinople. Option A. Julius Caesar. Option B. Dust Bowl. Option C. Constantine. Option D. Economic interpretation. The correct answer is option C. Constantine. This points to Constantine because his policies changed the status of Christianity in the empire. Julius Caesar points instead to a Roman general's dictatorship helped end the Republic. Dust Bowl points instead to drought and soil erosion devastated Great Plains farmers during the Depression, and economic interpretation points instead to historical change is explained through production, trade, labor, and wealth. Question 25. Decide which option this CLEP history clue describes movable type spread books and ideas more quickly. Option A. Historical context. Option B. Printing press. Option C. Washington's neutrality policy. Option D. Black Death. The correct answer is option B. Printing press. This points to printing press because printing accelerated the Renaissance and Reformation. Historical context points instead to events are understood through the conditions and ideas of their time. Washington's neutrality policy points instead to the young United States avoided taking sides in European wars, and Black Death points instead to plague killed millions and disrupted Europe's economy and society. Question 26. Evaluate the options and choose the one that fits. Frontier unrest in Virginia exposed tensions over land, class, and colonial leadership. Option A, Bacon's Rebellion. Option B, Mussolini. Option C, Populist Movement. Option D, Urbanization. The correct answer is option A, Bacon's Rebellion. This points to Bacon's Rebellion because the rebellion revealed conflict inside colonial society. Mussolini points instead to Italy's fascist leader built a dictatorship after World War I. Populist movement points instead to farmers demanded reforms such as free silver, railroad regulation, and direct democracy, and urbanization points instead to industrial jobs drew people into rapidly growing cities. Question 27. Consider this clue and identify the historical match. An international organization was created after World War II to promote peace and cooperation. Option A, United Nations. Option B, European Coal and Steel Community. Option C, D-A. Option D, Declaration of Independence. The correct answer is option A, United Nations. This points to United Nations because the UN reflected hopes for collective security after global war. European Coal and Steel Community points instead to Western European states' pooled coal and steel production after World War II. D-A points instead to Allied forces landed in Normandy to begin liberating Western Europe, and Declaration of Independence points instead to colonists' justified separation by invoking natural rights and grievances against the king. Question 28. Predict the answer. A CLEP item is targeting laws of motion and gravity. Unified celestial and earthly physics. Option A, Compromise of 1850. Option B, Marbury v. Madison. Option C, Newton. Option D, Gilded Age. The correct answer is option C, Newton. This points to Newton because his work became a foundation of modern science. Compromise of 1850 points instead to Congress admitted California as free and strengthened the Fugitive Slave Act. Marbury v. Madison points instead to the Supreme Court established judicial review, and Gilded Age points instead to rapid industrial growth and deep inequality and political corruption. Question 29. Notice the key clue and choose the matching answer. Rail lines connected the country and accelerated Western settlement and commerce. Option A, Plato. Option B, Saratoga. Option C, Transcontinental Railroad. Option D, European Coal and Steel Community. The correct answer is option C, Transcontinental Railroad. This points to Transcontinental Railroad because the railroad transformed travel, trade, and the Western economy. Plato points instead to a philosopher wrote dialogues and imagined rule by philosopher minus kings. Saratoga points instead to an American victory persuaded France to ally with the United States, and European Coal and Steel Community points instead to Western European states' pooled coal and steel production after World War II. Question 30. Estimate which topic this clue would test. A Frankish ruler built a large empire and supported Christian learning. Option A, Great Awakening. Option B, Monroe Doctrine. Option C, Source Bias. Option D, Charlemagne. The correct answer is option D, Charlemagne. This points to Charlemagne because his coronation linked kingship with the church in medieval Europe. Great Awakening points instead to religious revivals stressed personal conversion and challenged established authority. Monroe Doctrine points instead to the United States warned European powers against new colonization in the Americas, and Source Bias points instead to evidence may be shaped by an author's motives or assumptions. Question 31. Judge which option best completes this clue. Citizenship and equal protection were written into the Constitution. Option A, 14th Amendment. Option B, Marbury v. Madison. Option C, Embargo Act. Option D, Appeasement. The correct answer is option A, 14th Amendment. This points to 14th Amendment because the amendment became central to civil rights law. Marbury v. Madison points instead to the Supreme Court established judicial review. Embargo Act points instead to Jefferson restricted foreign trade to pressure Britain and France, and appeasement points instead to Britain and France made concessions to Hitler hoping to avoid war. Question 32. Assess the clue and select a correct history term. Thomas Paine argued in plain language for independence from Britain. Option A, Monorealism. Option B, Julius Caesar. Option C, Truman Doctrine. Option D, Common Sense. The correct answer is option D, Common Sense. This points to common sense because the pamphlet helped build popular support for breaking with Britain. Monorealism points instead to peasants' worked estates that formed the economic base of medieval society. Julius Caesar points instead to a Roman general's dictatorship helped end the Republic, and Truman Doctrine points instead to the United States' promised aid to resist communist expansion. Question 33. Classify this clue under the right historical answer. Improved farming increased food production before industrialization? Option A, Charlemagne. Option B, Ancient Egypt. Option C, Agricultural Revolution. Option D, Stonewall Uprising. The correct answer is option C, Agricultural Revolution. This points to agricultural revolution because higher productivity supported population growth and urban labor. Charlemagne points instead to a Frankish ruler built a large empire and supported Christian learning. Ancient Egypt points instead to pharaohs, the Nile, and monumental architecture shaped a long-lasting civilization, and Stonewall Uprising points instead to resistance to a police raid helped energize the LGBTQ rights movement. Question 34. Infer in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? European integration created shared institutions and a common market? Option A, Monorealism. Option B, John Locke. Option C, Sputnik. Option D, European Union. The correct answer is option D, European Union. This points to European Union because the EU grew from post-war cooperation. Monorealism points instead to peasants' worked estates that formed the economic base of medieval society. John Locke points instead to a philosopher argued for natural rights and government by consent. And Sputnik points instead to the Soviet satellite launch intensified Cold War competition in science and education. Question 35. Link this clue to the correct exam topic. European states expanded control over Africa and Asia in the late 19th century? Option A, Populist movement. Option B, Japanese-American internment. Option C, iconoclasm. Option D, new imperialism. The correct answer is option D, new imperialism. This points to new imperialism because imperialism sought resources, markets, prestige, and strategic advantage. Populist movement points instead to farmers demanded reforms such as free silver, railroad regulation, and direct democracy. Japanese-American internment points instead to the U.S. government forcibly relocated Japanese Americans during World War II, and iconoclasm points instead to Byzantine disputes over religious images divided church and empire. Question 36. Uncover the answer behind this history clue. Old-regime inequality and fiscal crisis helped spark radical political change? Option A, Enlightenment. Option B, Montgomery bus boycott. Option C, Articles of Confederation. Option D, French Revolution. The correct answer is option D, French Revolution. This points to French Revolution because the revolution transformed France and Europe. Enlightenment points instead to thinkers emphasized reason, natural rights, and criticism of tradition. Montgomery bus boycott points instead to African Americans protested segregated buses after Rosa Parks' arrest, and Articles of Confederation points instead to the first national government had a weak central authority and no power to tax directly. Question 37. Test your recall by choosing the answer for this clue. Spain's failed invasion of England weakened Spanish prestige. Option A, triangular trade. Option B, Black Death. Option C, Sputnik. Option D, Spanish Armada. The correct answer is option D, Spanish Armada. This points to Spanish Armada because the defeat boosted English confidence and naval reputation. Triangular trade points instead to Atlantic trade linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through goods and enslaved labor. Black Death points instead to plague killed millions and disrupted Europe's economy and society. And Sputnik points instead to the Soviet satellite launch intensified Cold War competition in science and education. Question 38. Practice this CLEP-style match. Radical revolutionaries used executions to defend the French Republic. Option A, Darwinism. Option B, Peace of Westphalia. Option C, Mussolini. Option D, Reign of Terror. The correct answer is option D, Reign of Terror. This points to Reign of Terror because the period showed the revolution's violent radical phase. Darwinism points instead to evolution by natural selection challenged older views of life and nature. Peace of Westphalia points instead to treaties helped establish state sovereignty after the 30 Years' War, and Mussolini points instead to Italy's fascist leader built a dictatorship after World War I. Question 39. Challenge yourself to identify this history clue. Rome used elected offices, a senate, and checks among elites. Option A, Cuban Missile Crisis. Option B, Mussolini. Option C, atomic bombings. Option D, Roman Republic. The correct answer is option D, Roman Republic. This points to Roman Republic because the Republic influenced later ideas of mixed government. Cuban Missile Crisis points instead to a nuclear standoff brought the United States and Soviet Union close to war. Mussolini points instead to Italy's fascist leader built a dictatorship after World War I, and atomic bombings points instead to the United States used nuclear weapons against Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Question 40. Confirm the correct answer for this clue. U.S. entry helped the Allies and increased federal power at home. Option A, World War I. Option B, World War I alliances. Option C, urbanization. Option D, Treaty of Versailles. The correct answer is option A, World War I. This points to World War I because the war affected diplomacy, civil liberties, and the economy. World War I alliances points instead to entangling alliances turned a regional crisis into a wider war. Urbanization points instead to industrial jobs drew people into rapidly growing cities, and Treaty of Versailles points instead to the peace settlement punished Germany and created the League of Nations. Question 41. Verify which option matches this CLEP history clue. South Carolina claimed it could reject federal tariffs. Option A, Constantine. Option B, Hamilton's financial plan. Option C, nullification crisis. Option D, Emancipation Proclamation. The correct answer is option C, nullification crisis. This points to nullification crisis because the crisis tested federal authority and states' rights. Constantine points instead to a Roman emperor legalized Christianity and founded Constantinople. Hamilton's financial plan points instead to the federal government assumed debts and supported a national bank, and Emancipation Proclamation points instead to Lincoln declared enslaved people free in areas still rebelling against the Union. Question 42. Solve this quick history clue. The first 10 amendments protected individual liberties against federal abuse. Option A, Marbury v. Madison. Option B, Bill of Rights. Option C, Machiavelli. Option D, Munich Conference. The correct answer is option B, Bill of Rights. This points to Bill of Rights because these amendments helped answer anti-Federalist concerns about rights. Marbury v. Madison points instead to the Supreme Court established judicial review. Machiavelli points instead to a Renaissance writer analyzed political power in The Prince, and Munich Conference points instead to European leaders allowed Hitler to take the Sudetenland in 1938. Question 43. Figure out the correct answer from this clue. Colonists justified separation by invoking natural rights and grievances against the king. Option A, Declaration of Independence. Option B, Bill of Rights. Option C, militarism. Option D, Trail of Tears. The correct answer is option A, Declaration of Independence. This points to Declaration of Independence because the document announced independence and explained the political reasons for it. Bill of Rights points instead to the first 10 amendments protected individual liberties against federal abuse. Militarism points instead to arms races and war planning contributed to tensions before World War I, and Trail of Tears points instead to Cherokee removal led to deadly forced migration westward. Question 44. Find the option that best fits this clue. Liberals and nationalists challenged conservative governments across Europe. Option A, Hammurabi's Code. Option B, Alien and Sedition Acts. Option C, 3-5 Compromise. Option D, Revolutions of 1848. The correct answer is option D, Revolutions of 1848. This points to revolutions of 1848 because most revolutions failed but revealed deep social and political tensions. Hammurabi's Code points instead to a Babylonian law code showed written legal rules and social hierarchy. Alien and Sedition Acts points instead to Federalists restricted criticism and immigration during conflict with France, and 3-5 Compromise points instead to enslaved people were counted partially for representation and taxation. Question 45. Remember which topic connects to this clue. Congress tried to curb monopolies and restraints of trade. Option A, 30 Years' War. Option B, European Coal and Steel Community. Option C, Bacon's Rebellion. Option D, Sherman Antitrust Act. The correct answer is option D, Sherman Antitrust Act. This points to Sherman Antitrust Act because the law became an early federal tool against trusts. 30 Years' War points instead to a destructive European war mixed religious and political conflict. European coal and steel community points instead to Western European states' pooled coal and steel production after World War II, and Bacon's Rebellion points instead to frontier unrest in Virginia exposed tensions over land, class, and colonial leadership. Question 46. Highlight the answer described by this clue. A Renaissance writer helped revive classical Latin texts and humanism. Option A, continuity and change. Option B, Marshall Plan. Option C, Petrarch. Option D, Bill of Rights. The correct answer is option C, Petrarch. This points to Petrarch because he is often associated with early Renaissance humanism. Continuity and change points instead to analysis compares what stayed the same and what shifted over time. Marshall Plan points instead to the United States-funded European recovery after World War II, and Bill of Rights points instead to the first 10 amendments protected individual liberties against federal abuse. Question 47. Separate the correct answer from close distractors. Analysis compares what stayed the same and what shifted over time. Option A, Marshall Plan in Europe. Option B, continuity and change. Option C, Manifest Destiny. Option D, Kansas-Nebraska Act. The correct answer is option B, continuity and change. This points to continuity and change because this skill is common in history interpretation. Marshall Plan in Europe points instead to U.S. aid rebuilt Western Europe and strengthened anti-communist governments. Manifest Destiny points instead to many Americans believed the nation was destined to expand westward, and Kansas-Nebraska Act points instead to popular sovereignty reopened the slavery question in Western territories. Question 48. Clarify which history topic this clue describes. Historians explain how one development helped produce another. Option A, triangular trade. Option B, causation. Option C, French Revolution. Option D, Industrial Revolution. The correct answer is option B, causation. This points to causation because causation connects events rather than just listing dates. Triangular trade points instead to Atlantic trade linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through goods and enslaved labor. French Revolution points instead to old regime inequality and fiscal crisis helped spark radical political change, and Industrial Revolution points instead to mechanized production transformed work, cities, and economies. Question 49. Relate this clue to the correct CLEP history answer. Politics expanded white male suffrage and celebrated the common man. Option A, Alien and Sedition Acts. Option B, Jacksonian democracy. Option C, Lenin. Option D, Russian Revolution. The correct answer is option B, Jacksonian democracy. This points to Jacksonian democracy because the era broadened participation for many white men while excluding women and most black Americans. Alien and Sedition Acts points instead to Federalists' restricted criticism and immigration during conflict with France. Lenin points instead to the Bolshevik leader promoted vanguard revolution and withdrew Russia from World War I, and Russian Revolution points instead to revolution ended Tsarist rule and brought Bolsheviks to power. Question 50. Detect the answer hidden in this clue. Arms races and war planning contributed to tensions before World War I. Option A, Erie Canal. Option B, militarism. Option C, NATO. Option D, black codes. The correct answer is option B, militarism. This points to militarism because militarism was one cause of pre-war instability. Erie Canal points instead to a canal connected the Great Lakes to the Hudson River and lowered transportation costs. NATO points instead to a military alliance linked the United States with Western Europe, and Black Codes points instead to Southern laws restricted the freedom of formerly enslaved people. Question 51. Differentiate the matching answer from other periods among challenged indulgences and helped launch the Protestant Reformation. Option A, 17th Amendment. Option B, Martin Luther. Option C, Red Scare. Option D, 100 Years' War. The correct answer is option B, Martin Luther. This points to Martin Luther because his criticisms questioned Catholic authority and doctrine. 17th Amendment points instead to senators became elected directly by voters. Red Scare points instead to fear of radicals and communism led to raids and restrictions after World War I, and 100 Years' War points instead to a long conflict between England and France strengthened national identities. Question 52. Carefully choose which option matches this clue. A French representative body met in 1789 during a fiscal crisis. Option A, Estates minus General. Option B, Crusades. Option C, Triangular Trade. Option D, Montgomery bus boycott. The correct answer is option A, Estates minus General. This points to Estates minus General because its meeting helped launch the French Revolution. Crusades points instead to European Christians launched military campaigns toward the Eastern Mediterranean. Triangular Trade points instead to Atlantic trade linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through goods and enslaved labor. And Montgomery bus boycott points instead to African Americans protested segregated buses after Rosa Parks' arrest. Question 53. Question: which answer a CLEP item would expect English nobles forced limits on royal power in 1215? Option A, Hebrew monotheism. Option B, salutary neglect. Option C, Mexican minus American War. Option D, Magna Carta. The correct answer is option D, Magna Carta. This points to Magna Carta because the charter became associated with rule of law. Hebrew monotheism points instead to belief in one God distinguished ancient Hebrew religion. Salutary neglect points instead to Britain loosely enforced colonial rules before tightening control after 1763, and Mexican minus American War points instead to U.S. victory added Western lands and reignited debate over slavery's expansion. Question 54. Explore this clue and identify the correct answer. Byzantine legal reform organized Roman law. Option A, steam engine. Option B, printing press. Option C, feudalism. Option D, Justinian Code. The correct answer is option D, Justinian Code. This points to Justinian Code because the code influenced later European legal systems. Steam engine points instead to improved power technology drove factories, railroads, and mines. Printing press points instead to movable type spread books and ideas more quickly, and feudalism points instead to land holding and personal loyalty structured medieval power. Question 55. Revisit this history clue and choose its match. Settlers received Western land after meeting residency and improvement requirements. Option A, Homestead Act. Option B, Aristotle. Option C, Justinian Code. Option D, Iconoclasm. The correct answer is option A, Homestead Act. This points to Homestead Act because the act encouraged migration to the Great Plains. Aristotle points instead to a philosopher emphasized observation, logic, and classification. Justinian Code points instead to Byzantine legal reform organized Roman law, and Iconoclasm points instead to Byzantine disputes over religious images divided church and empire. Question 56. Discover which answer this CLEP clue describes city minus states such as Athens and Sparta shaped Greek political life. Option A, English Civil War. Option B, Greek polis. Option C, Scientific Revolution. Option D, 3-5 compromise. The correct answer is option B, Greek polis. This points to Greek polis because the polis was the central political unit of ancient Greece. English Civil War points instead to conflict between king and parliament challenged royal absolutism. Scientific Revolution points instead to thinkers used observation and mathematics to challenge older views of nature. And 3-5 compromise points instead to enslaved people were counted partially for representation and taxation. Question 57. Investigate the correct choice for this clue. A trial over teaching evolution highlighted conflict between modernism and fundamentalism. Option A, Montgomery bus boycott. Option B, Gilded Age. Option C, Scopes trial. Option D, Agricultural Revolution. The correct answer is option C, Scopes trial. This points to Scopes trial because the case symbolized cultural tensions of the 1920s. Montgomery bus boycott points instead to African Americans protested segregated buses after Rosa Parks' arrest. Gilded Age points instead to rapid industrial growth to deep inequality and political corruption, and Agricultural Revolution points instead to improved farming increased food production before industrialization. Question 58. Read the clue and select a matching topic. A French scandal over antisemitism and military injustice divided society. Option A, Dreyfus Affair. Option B, House of Burgesses. Option C, New Imperialism. Option D, Treaty of Versailles. The correct answer is option A, Dreyfus Affair. This points to Dreyfus Affair because the affair revealed tensions in the Third Republic. House of Burgesses points instead to a Virginia Assembly gave colonists an early model of representative government. New imperialism points instead to European states' expanded control over Africa and Asia in the late 19th century, and Treaty of Versailles points instead to Germany faced blame, reparations and territorial losses after World War I. Question 59. Complete the exam minus style clue with the correct answer. The English king broke with Rome and created the Church of England? Option A, Henry VIII. Option B, German unification. Option C, Indian Removal Act. Option D, mercantilism. The correct answer is option A, Henry VIII. This points to Henry VIII because the break began the English Reformation. German unification points instead to Bismarck used diplomacy and war to unify Germany under Prussia. Indian Removal Act points instead to federal policy forced many native peoples west of the Mississippi, and mercantilism points instead to colonies supplied raw materials and markets for the mother country. Question 60. Decode this history clue and choose the right answer. Soviet rule featured collectivization, 5-year plans and political terror? Option A, Russian Revolution. Option B, Stonewall Uprising. Option C, Stalin. Option D, Alien and Sedition Acts. The correct answer is option C, Stalin. This points to Stalin because his policies transformed the USSR at enormous human cost. Russian Revolution points instead to revolution ended Tsarist rule and brought Bolsheviks to power. Stonewall Uprising points instead to resistance to a police raid helped energize the LGBTQ rights movement, and Alien and Sedition Acts points instead to Federalists restricted criticism and immigration during conflict with France. Question 61. Rapidly in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? A Cold War conflict began when North Korea invaded South Korea. Option A, Korean War. Option B, End of the Cold War. Option C, Harriet Beecher Stowe. Option D, Diocletian. The correct answer is option A, Korean War. This points to Korean War because the war showed containment becoming a military policy in Asia. End of the Cold War points instead to Soviet collapse ended the decades-long US-Soviet rivalry. Harriet Beecher Stowe points instead to her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin increased northern anti-slavery feeling, and Diocletian points instead to a Roman emperor divided administration to manage imperial crisis. Question 62. Wisely choose which response matches this clue. Germany's post-World War I democracy faced inflation, extremism and legitimacy problems. Option A, Reign of Terror. Option B, nationalism. Option C, Peace of Augsburg. Option D, Weimar Republic. The correct answer is option D, Weimar Republic. This points to Weimar Republic because its weakness helped create conditions for Nazi rise. Reign of Terror points instead to radical revolutionaries used executions to defend the French Republic. Nationalism points instead to people emphasized shared language, culture, and political identity, and Peace of Augsburg points instead to German rulers could choose Lutheranism or Catholicism for their territories. Question 63. Rank the choices by relevance and pick the best match. A philosopher advocated separation of powers. Option A, Triangular Trade. Option B, Alien and Sedition Acts. Option C, Harriet Beecher Stowe. Option D, Montesquieu. The correct answer is option D, Montesquieu. This points to Montesquieu because his ideas influenced constitutional design. Triangular trade points instead to Atlantic trade linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through goods and enslaved labor. Alien and Sedition Acts points instead to Federalists restricted criticism and immigration during conflict with France, and Harriet Beecher Stowe points instead to her novel Uncle Tom's Cabin increased northern anti-slavery feeling. Question 64. Prioritize the clue and select the correct history answer. Journalists exposed corporate abuse, corruption, and urban problems. Option A, thesis statement. Option B, women's suffrage. Option C, muckrakers. Option D, Plato. The correct answer is option C, muckrakers. This points to muckrakers because their reporting helped build support for progressive reforms. Thesis statement points instead to a historical argument states a defensible claim about evidence. Women's suffrage points instead to women organized for voting rights and legal equality, and Plato points instead to a philosopher wrote dialogues and imagined rule by philosopher minus kings. Question 65. Focus in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? Parliament taxed printed materials and sparked colonial protests over representation? Option A, Emancipation Proclamation. Option B, Common Sense. Option C, Stamp Act. Option D, Estates minus General. The correct answer is option C, Stamp Act. This points to Stamp Act because it became a major early dispute over taxation without colonial representation. Emancipation Proclamation points instead to Lincoln declared enslaved people free in areas still rebelling against the Union. Common Sense points instead to Thomas Paine argued in plain language for independence from Britain, and Estates minus General points instead to a French representative body met in 1789 during a fiscal crisis. Question 66. Use this clue to identify the tested topic. Scholars emphasized classical learning and human achievement. Option A, Renaissance humanism. Option B, intolerable acts. Option C, proclamation of 1763. Option D, Shays Rebellion. The correct answer is option A, Renaissance humanism. This points to Renaissance humanism because humanism shaped Renaissance art, education, and literature. Intolerable acts points instead to Britain punished Massachusetts after the Boston Tea Party. Proclamation of 1763 points instead to Britain tried to limit colonial settlement west of the Appalachians, and Shays Rebellion points instead to farmers' unrest exposed weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation. Question 67. Apply your CLEP history knowledge to this clue. Farmers' unrest exposed weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation. Option A, Reaganomics. Option B, 15th Amendment. Option C, Shays Rebellion. Option D, Persian Empire. The correct answer is option C, Shays Rebellion. This points to Shays Rebellion because the uprising convinced many leaders that the national government needed more power. Reaganomics points instead to tax cuts, deregulation, and supply-side ideas shaped 1980s economic policy. 15th Amendment points instead to voting rights could not be denied based on race, color, or previous servitude, and Persian Empire points instead to a large empire used satraps and roads to govern diverse peoples. Question 68. Between in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? A Roman emperor divided administration to manage imperial crisis? Option A, stagflation. Option B, Diocletian. Option C, Progressive Era. Option D, Roman Republic. The correct answer is option B, Diocletian. This points to Diocletian because his reforms tried to stabilize the empire. Stagflation points instead to the 1970s saw high inflation combined with slow growth. Progressive Era points instead to reformers targeted corruption, monopolies, unsafe workplaces, and social injustice, and Roman Republic points instead to Rome used elected offices, a senate, and checks among elites. Question 69. Promptly in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? A reformer founded Hull House to assist immigrants and the urban poor? Option A, periodization. Option B, Congress of Vienna. Option C, Jane Addams. Option D, Bill of Rights. The correct answer is option C, Jane Addams. This points to Jane Addams because settlement houses addressed problems of industrial cities. Periodization points instead to history is divided into meaningful eras based on patterns and turning points. Congress of Vienna points instead to European powers restored balance after Napoleon's defeat, and Bill of Rights points instead to the first 10 amendments protected individual liberties against federal abuse. Question 70. Smartly select the best historical match. A heliocentric model placed the Sun at the center of the solar system. Option A, Spanish Armada. Option B, Copernicus. Option C, House of Burgesses. Option D, Weimar Republic. The correct answer is option B, Copernicus. This points to Copernicus because his theory challenged geocentric astronomy. Spanish Armada points instead to Spain's failed invasion of England weakened Spanish prestige. House of Burgesses points instead to a Virginia assembly gave colonists an early model of representative government, and Weimar Republic points instead to Germany's post-World War I democracy faced inflation, extremism, and legitimacy problems. Question 71. Swiftly confirm the answer tied to this clue. Italy's fascist leader built a dictatorship after World War I. Option A, 15th Amendment. Option B, source bias. Option C, Persian Empire. Option D, Mussolini. The correct answer is option D, Mussolini. This points to Mussolini because his regime became an early model of fascist rule. 15th Amendment points instead to voting rights could not be denied based on race, color, or previous servitude. Source bias points instead to evidence may be shaped by an author's motives or assumptions, and Persian Empire points instead to a large empire used satraps and roads to govern diverse peoples. Question 72. Diligently review and choose the matching answer. Federal law restricted immigration from China in 1882. Option A, Articles of Confederation. Option B, Saratoga. Option C, Constantine. Option D, Chinese Exclusion Act. The correct answer is option D, Chinese Exclusion Act. This points to Chinese Exclusion Act because the act reflected nativism and racial exclusion. Articles of Confederation points instead to the first national government had a weak central authority and no power to tax directly. Saratoga points instead to an American victory persuaded France to ally with the United States, and Constantine points instead to a Roman emperor legalized Christianity and founded Constantinople. Question 73. Immediately decide which option. The clue describes the Constitution created a bicameral Congress balancing large and small states. Option A, D-Day. Option B, Great Compromise. Option C, Crusades. Option D, Revolutions of 1848. The correct answer is option B, Great Compromise. This points to Great Compromise because the compromise settled a major dispute at the convention. D-Day points instead to Allied forces landed in Normandy to begin liberating Western Europe. Crusades points instead to European Christians launched military campaigns toward the Eastern Mediterranean, and Revolutions of 1848 points instead to liberals and nationalists challenged conservative governments across Europe. Question 74. Narrow the choices to the answer matching this clue. Parliament taxed imports such as glass, paper and tea. Option A, conservatism. Option B, causation. Option C, storming of the Bastille. Option D, Townshend Acts. The correct answer is option D, Townshend Acts. This points to Townshend Acts because the acts renewed colonial protests against imperial taxation. Conservatism points instead to post-Napoleonic politics defended tradition, monarchy, and social order. Causation points instead to historians explain how one development helped produce another, and storming of the Bastille points instead to a Paris crowd attacked a royal prison in 1789. Question 75. Eliminate in CLEP History Progressive Era. Which answer fits this clue? Women gained constitutional protection for voting rights. Option A, Pax Romana. Option B, 19th Amendment. Option C, 13th Amendment. Option D, Columbian Exchange. The correct answer is option B, 19th Amendment. This points to 19th Amendment because the amendment marked a major victory for women's suffrage. Pax Romana points instead to the Roman Empire experienced relative peace and prosperity. 13th Amendment points instead to slavery was abolished throughout the United States, and Columbian Exchange points instead to new foods, animals, diseases and peoples moved between the Eastern and Western hemispheres. Question 76. Again, which option fits after reading this CLEP-style clue? Voting rights could not be denied based on race, color, or previous servitude. Option A, Renaissance humanism. Option B, Newton. Option C, Agricultural Revolution. Option D, 15th Amendment. The correct answer is option D, 15th Amendment. This points to 15th Amendment because the amendment aimed to protect black male suffrage during Reconstruction. Renaissance humanism points instead to scholars emphasized classical learning and human achievement. Newton points instead to laws of motion and gravity unified celestial and earthly physics, and agricultural revolution points instead to improved farming increased food production before industrialization. Question 77. Think through this clue and identify the answer. Belief in one God distinguished ancient Hebrew religion. Option A, Aristotle. Option B, primary source. Option C, Hebrew monotheism. Option D, Homestead Act. The correct answer is option C, Hebrew monotheism. This points to Hebrew monotheism because monotheism became a major influence on later Western religious traditions. Aristotle points instead to a philosopher emphasized observation, logic, and classification. Primary source points instead to a document or artifact comes from the time being studied, and Homestead Act points instead to settlers received Western land after meeting residency and improvement requirements. Question 78. Quickly analyze which history answer fits. CLEP promoted tariffs, a national bank, and internal improvements. Option A, Constitutional Convention. Option B, Homestead Act. Option C, American System. Option D, Articles of Confederation. The correct answer is option C, American System. This points to American System because the plan aimed to strengthen national economic development. Constitutional Convention points instead to delegates created a stronger federal government with checks and balances. Homestead Act points instead to settlers received Western land after meeting residency and improvement requirements. And Articles of Confederation points instead to the first national government had a weak central authority and no power to tax directly. Question 79. Inspect a clue and select the correct option. African Americans protested segregated buses after Rosa Parks' arrest. Option A, Montgomery bus boycott. Option B, fascism. Option C, D-Day. Option D, new imperialism. The correct answer is option A, Montgomery bus boycott. This points to Montgomery bus boycott because the boycott became a major early civil rights victory. Fascism points instead to authoritarian nationalism, rejected liberal democracy and communism. D-Day points instead to Allied forces landed in Normandy to begin liberating Western Europe, and new imperialism points instead to European states' expanded control over Africa and Asia in the late 19th century. Question 80. Study this clue and choose the matching history term. Britain punished Massachusetts after the Boston Tea Party. Option A, Pax Romana. Option B, Charlemagne. Option C, Intolerable Acts. Option D, Red Scare. The correct answer is option C, Intolerable Acts. This points to intolerable acts because the laws pushed colonies toward greater unity against Britain. Pax Romana points instead to the Roman Empire experienced relative peace and prosperity. Charlemagne points instead to a Frankish ruler built a large empire and supported Christian learning. And Red Scare points instead to fear of radicals and communism led to raids and restrictions after World War I. Question 81. Master this CLEP clue by selecting the answer. Lincoln declared enslaved people free in areas still rebelling against the Union. Option A, Reaganomics. Option B, Treaty of Versailles. Option C, Emancipation Proclamation. Option D, 14th Amendment. The correct answer is option C, Emancipation Proclamation. This points to Emancipation Proclamation because it shifted the Civil War toward a war against slavery. Reaganomics points instead to tax cuts, deregulation, and supply-side ideas shaped 1980s economic policy. Treaty of Versailles points instead to Germany faced blame, reparations, and territorial losses after World War I, and 14th Amendment points instead to citizenship and equal protection were written into the Constitution. Question 82. Drill this history clue and pick the best match. Soviet collapse ended the decades-long US-Soviet rivalry. Option A, abolitionism. Option B, Watergate. Option C, Boston Tea Party. Option D, end of the Cold War. The correct answer is option D, end of the Cold War. This points to end of the Cold War because the event transformed global politics after 1991. Abolitionism points instead to reformers demanded the end of slavery through moral and political arguments. Watergate points instead to a political scandal led to President Nixon's resignation. And Boston Tea Party points instead to colonists protested the Tea Act by destroying tea in Boston Harbor. Question 83. Speedily review and select the answer tied to this clue. Nazi leadership promoted dictatorship, expansionism, and racial ideology. Option A, Hitler. Option B, urbanization. Option C, Cuban Missile Crisis. Option D, iconoclasm. The correct answer is option A, Hitler. This points to Hitler because Hitler's rule led to World War II and the Holocaust. Urbanization points instead to industrial jobs drew people into rapidly growing cities. Cuban Missile Crisis points instead to a nuclear standoff brought the United States and Soviet Union close to war. And iconoclasm points instead to Byzantine disputes over religious images divided church and empire. Question 84. Check in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue. History is divided into meaningful eras based on patterns and turning points. Option A, Wilmot Proviso. Option B, periodization. Option C, Renaissance humanism. Option D, Italian unification. The correct answer is option B, periodization. This points to periodization because periodization helps organize large amounts of content. Wilmot Proviso points instead to a proposal tried to ban slavery in lands gained from Mexico. Renaissance humanism points instead to scholars emphasized classical learning and human achievement, and Italian unification points instead to Piedmont, Garibaldi, and nationalist politics helped create Italy. Question 85. Examine this clue and choose the correct answer. Resistance to a police raid helped energize the LGBTQ rights movement. Option A, socialism. Option B, John Locke. Option C, Glorious Revolution. Option D, Stonewall Uprising. The correct answer is option D, Stonewall Uprising. This points to Stonewall Uprising because the event became a symbol of modern gay rights activism. Socialism points instead to critics of capitalism called for social ownership or stronger protections for workers. John Locke points instead to a philosopher argued for natural rights and government by consent. And Glorious Revolution points instead to England replaced James II and strengthened parliamentary power. Question 86. Closely compare the choices and identify the correct match. Treaties helped establish state sovereignty after the 30 Years' War. Option A, Peace of Westphalia. Option B, Jane Addams. Option C, stagflation. Option D, Yorktown. The correct answer is option A, Peace of Westphalia. This points to Peace of Westphalia because the settlement reshaped European diplomacy. Jane Addams points instead to a reformer founded Hull House to assist immigrants and the urban poor. Stagflation points instead to the 1970s saw high inflation combined with slow growth, and Yorktown points instead to Cornwallis surrendered after American and French forces trapped him. Question 87. Reason through this clue and choose the answer. Atlantic trade linked Europe, Africa, and the Americas through goods and enslaved labor. Option A, Great Awakening. Option B, Triangular Trade. Option C, Congress of Vienna. Option D, Progressive Era. The correct answer is option B, Triangular Trade. This points to triangular trade because the system shows the economic connections of the colonial Atlantic world. Great Awakening points instead to religious revivals stressed personal conversion and challenged established authority. Congress of Vienna points instead to European powers restored balance after Napoleon's defeat, and Progressive Era points instead to reformers targeted corruption, monopolies, unsafe workplaces, and social injustice. Question 88. Sort the choices and pick the one. This clue describes European powers restored balance after Napoleon's defeat. Option A, Mussolini. Option B, Missouri Compromise. Option C, Congress of Vienna. Option D, Mexican-American War. The correct answer is option C, Congress of Vienna. This points to Congress of Vienna because the settlement tried to prevent another continent-wide war. Mussolini points instead to Italy's fascist leader built a dictatorship after World War I. Missouri Compromise points instead to Congress balanced free and slave states while drawing a slavery line in the Louisiana Territory, and Mexican-American War points instead to U.S. victory added Western lands and reignited debate over slavery's expansion. Question 89. Precisely in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? Citizens participated directly in political decision-making? Option A, Lend-Lease. Option B, Compromise of 1877. Option C, Athenian Democracy. Option D, Sherman Antitrust Act. The correct answer is option C, Athenian Democracy. This points to Athenian democracy because Athens developed a form of direct democracy for male citizens. Lend-Lease points instead to the United States supplied allies before entering World War II. Compromise of 1877 points instead to the disputed 1876 election ended with federal troops leaving the South. And Sherman Antitrust Act points instead to Congress tried to curb monopolies and restraints of trade. Question 90. Assuredly select the answer that matches this clue. Washington used federal power to enforce an excise tax. Option A, periodization. Option B, Spanish Armada. Option C, Brown v. Board of Education. Option D, Whiskey Rebellion. The correct answer is option D, Whiskey Rebellion. This points to Whiskey Rebellion because the episode demonstrated the strength of the new government. Periodization points instead to history is divided into meaningful eras based on patterns and turning points. Spanish Armada points instead to Spain's failed invasion of England weakened Spanish prestige, and Brown v. Board of Education points instead to the Supreme Court declared segregated public schools unconstitutional. Question 91. Mark in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? Lyndon Johnson's programs targeted poverty, education, healthcare and civil rights? Option A, Great Society. Option B, GI Bill. Option C, United Nations. Option D, Proclamation of 1763. The correct answer is option A, Great Society. This points to Great Society because the initiative expanded the welfare state and federal reform efforts. GI Bill points instead to veterans received education and housing benefits after World War II. United Nations points instead to an international organization was created after World War II to promote peace and cooperation, and Proclamation of 1763 points instead to Britain tried to limit colonial settlement west of the Appalachians. Question 92. Pick in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? Mechanized production transformed work, cities, and economies. Option A, Industrial Revolution. Option B, Continuity and Change. Option C, Julius Caesar. Option D, 14th Amendment. The correct answer is option A, Industrial Revolution. This points to Industrial Revolution because industrialization shifted Europe toward factory-based production. Continuity and change points instead to analysis compares what stayed the same and what shifted over time. Julius Caesar points instead to a Roman general's dictatorship helped end the Republic, and 14th Amendment points instead to citizenship and equal protection were written into the Constitution. Question 93. Look in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? Peasants worked estates that formed the economic base of medieval society. Option A, Hitler. Option B, monorealism. Option C, Dred Scott Decision. Option D, Shays Rebellion. The correct answer is option B, monorealism. This points to monorealism because the manor was a key local economic unit. Hitler points instead to Nazi leadership promoted dictatorship, expansionism, and racial ideology. Dred Scott Decision points instead to the Supreme Court denied black citizenship and rejected limits on slavery in territories, and Shays Rebellion points instead to farmers' unrest exposed weaknesses in the Articles of Confederation. Question 94. Attentively study this clue and choose the correct match. Catholic leaders clarified doctrine and reformed church practices. Option A, Scientific Revolution. Option B, Secondary Source. Option C, Council of Trent. Option D, NATO. The correct answer is option C, Council of Trent. This points to Council of Trent because the council was central to the Catholic Reformation. Scientific Revolution points instead to thinkers used observation and mathematics to challenge older views of nature. Secondary Source points instead to a later interpretation explains or analyzes past events, and NATO points instead to a military alliance linked the United States with Western Europe. Question 95. Instantly think through and identify the CLEP history answer. A Protestant movement emphasized predestination and disciplined communities. Option A, Boston Tea Party. Option B, decolonization. Option C, nationalism. Option D, Calvinism. The correct answer is option D, Calvinism. This points to Calvinism because Calvin's ideas influenced reform movements across Europe. Boston Tea Party points instead to colonists protested the Tea Act by destroying tea in Boston Harbor. Decolonization points instead to colonies in Asia and Africa gained independence after World War II, and nationalism points instead to people emphasized shared language, culture, and political identity. Question 96. Recheck in CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue? The Roman Empire experienced relative peace and prosperity. Option A, Treaty of Versailles. Option B, Pax Romana. Option C, Diocletian. Option D, Augustus. The correct answer is option B, Pax Romana. This points to Pax Romana because this period helped trade and imperial culture flourish. Treaty of Versailles points instead to the peace settlement punished Germany and created the League of Nations. Diocletian points instead to a Roman emperor divided administration to manage imperial crisis, and Augustus points instead to Rome's first emperor created the Principate and launched the Pax Romana. Question 97. Try and CLEP History Progressive Era, which answer fits this clue. Veterans received education and housing benefits after World War II. Option A, Diocletian. Option B, GI Bill. Option C, Brown v. Board of Education. Option D, Sputnik. The correct answer is option B, GI Bill. This points to GI Bill because the law helped expand the middle class. Diocletian points instead to a Roman emperor divided administration to manage imperial crisis. Brown v. Board of Education points instead to the Supreme Court declared segregated public schools unconstitutional, and Sputnik points instead to the Soviet satellite launch intensified Cold War competition in science and education. Question 98. Answer this history clue with the best option. The Bolshevik leader promoted vanguard revolution and withdrew Russia from World War I. Option A, Lenin. Option B, nationalism. Option C, Stonewall Uprising. Option D, Articles of Confederation. The correct answer is option A, Lenin. This points to Lenin because his leadership shaped early Soviet policy. Nationalism points instead to people emphasized shared language, culture, and political identity. Stonewall Uprising points instead to resistance to a police raid helped energize the LGBTQ rights movement, and Articles of Confederation points instead to the first national government had a weak central authority and no power to tax directly. Question 99. Resolve which answer this clue is testing. European powers set rules for colonizing Africa without African representation. Option A, Magna Carta. Option B, Thesis Statement. Option C, Berlin Conference. Option D, Socrates. The correct answer is option C, Berlin Conference. This points to Berlin Conference because the meeting accelerated the scramble for Africa. Magna Carta points instead to English nobles' forced limits on royal power in 1215. Thesis Statement points instead to a historical argument states a defensible claim about evidence, and Socrates points instead to a philosopher questioned assumptions and emphasized ethical inquiry. Question 100. Unlock the correct response to this clue. Conflict between king and parliament challenged royal absolutism. Option A, Great Depression. Option B, English Civil War. Option C, Crimean War. Option D, French and Indian War. The correct answer is option B, English Civil War. This points to English Civil War because the war led to temporary republican rule and a stronger parliament. Great Depression points instead to a severe economic collapse caused mass unemployment and banking failures. Crimean War points instead to a mid-19th century war exposed Russian weakness and shifted European diplomacy, and French and Indian War points instead to Britain gained territory but created debt that led to new colonial taxes.